G'day guys, AOS Coach here, and in this video I have been kindly sent the new Hedonites of Slaanesh Battletome, and I'm going to break down some of the key changes in preparation for you to pick up your book. My overall observations, I've spent a few hours breaking down this book in preparation for this video, and luckily there's been some amazing creators who got this book earlier than I did because of, I guess, international postage. And I've listened to some of the reviews, you know, re-rolling ones, for example. 2+ Tough have been some amazing video creators who have kind of touched on this subject already. And one of the things that I noticed from this book is that the Slaanesh book is solid. And I say solid because when the first Battletome came out, what feels like 12, maybe 18 months ago, might be shorter, but I feel like it was at least 12 months ago when, let's assume it was 12 months. When the book very first came out, Hedonites of Slaanesh was incredibly oppressive. People did not enjoy playing with, people did not enjoy playing against Slaanesh. And that's really unfortunate. What you may not know about me is back in the old days of Warhammer Fantasy, I did have a Slaanesh demon force. I actually used to run combo Tzeentch and Slaanesh. And I've still got my old, you know, crab clawed, the old metal big crab clawed demonettes. And when the book came out, I was really excited to play with the new fiends, to see the new, all the new models, all the new demons. And unfortunately, we never really saw that because the old book was really focused around putting as many points as possible into your heroes. The big lawnmower, 2, 3 keepers of secrets, getting the contorted epitome out there, just getting as many heroes as possible. And what will end up happening with the always strike last mechanics is that people didn't enjoy playing. It was a really negative experience, and it got to a point, and you'll probably hear it from Slaanesh players. I remember Jack talking about it. It was his first army of re-rolling ones, Jack. He said that he just didn't enjoy the experience, and he put that on the shelf. And that's a real shame. So when I looked at this book and I thought about, is this just going to be another book that's going to see Slaanesh rise to the top and be super crazy competitive until they just keep, you know, increasing the points and FAQing them until they're not very competitive? And the answer is no. I think this book feels competitive without having to be crazy broken or crazy strong. I think the cool thing as well is you're going to get a whole bunch of new units, not just 1 or 2 endless spells like Daughters of Cain have gotten. They've gotten literally half an additional book. So for me, when I looked at this book and the way that they've restructured it, even Depravity, they've restructured it in such a way that you're going to see list diversification. You're going to see a whole bunch of different units that you haven't seen before. And I think it's a much more balanced way to play the game. And I think you are going to have more positive experiences with your opponent, and you're going to enjoy your game more. So without further ado, I'm going to look at some of the key changes and remind you again, this is happening before any FAQs. Things can change once the FAQs drop, which is normally about 4 weeks after the Battletome hits the shelves. So let's look at some of the key changes that's happened in this book. So one of the first changes you've gotten is you've gotten literally half a new book. You always had demons in your book, but unlike Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, who had both demons and mortals, Slaanesh never had mortals. You've now got mortals, and my gosh, you've got some beautiful models that have come out. You've got Sigvold, the Prince of Slaanesh, has returned. You've got this amazing Palanquin, the Lord of Gluttony, Glutos, has come out. You've gotten some ranged, and I know a lot of Slaanesh players are very excited about getting some shooting. You've got your Blitzbarb Archers, and you've got your Blitzbarb Seekers, who I think are going to be doing some wonderful chip damage, and that will become very important when we look at the way that Depravity has changed. You've also got cool units like the Lord of Pain. You got the Shard Speaker of Shard Speaker of Slaanesh. You got yourself the Twin Souls. You've got yourself, you know, some Pain Bringers. You've got, you know, there's so many cool models that have come out. Good times for you. I did mention that Depravity generation has changed. Now, in the past, in the old book, you generate Depravity from your Hedonite heroes that would deal wounds or mortal wounds to an enemy model that didn't slay them. Now, at the time where Hedonites of Slaanesh were probably the strongest of in the meta at the time, I was playing Gloomspite kits and my army was full of 1 wound heroes. And if I was playing Cities of Sigmar, I would still laugh as much as I laughed when I played with my Gloomspite kits. Now, Depravity has changed quite significantly, and the way you summon as well as the way that you generate. Now, you are still going to be able to summon your Slaanesh demons on the battlefield if you've got enough Depravity. However, you generate Depravity at the end of the battle shock phase. So they're a little bit different. And you receive 1 Depravity point for each unit on the battlefield that had a wound or a mortal wound that was allocated and not negated. And or it has fewer models in it than it had at the start. So it's happening on both sides. Your Depravity isn't tied to your Hedonite heroes, but rather it's happening on both sides of the fence. So if you take some wounds, if they take some wounds, you're going to be generating Depravity at the end of the battle shock phase. You still summon your units at the end of your movement phase, and it's still happening wholly within 12 inches of the hero and outside 9 of the enemy. That hasn't changed. Now, the Depravity points have changed a little bit, and you'll probably notice that it's gotten cheaper to summon, the numbers here. I think from memory, the Keeper of Secrets used to be like 30 Depravity. It's now at 12. But just the way you generate Depravity is a little bit different. Chatting to some people who have been play testing this, it sounds like it is as easy to generate Depravity, if not easier, just depending on how you do your builds. I mentioned the Blitzbarb Archers before, and when you think about Blitzbarb Archers and having like a big unit of Blitzbarb Archers, I can see Slaanesh players, especially early on, taking a big block, splitting those attacks, making sure that you take down one or more, one model or a couple of wounds here and there, and generating those Depravity really quickly to get those heroes back, or those demons on the table. So just know Depravity has changed a little bit, but I don't think it's a nerf. I think it's just the way you generate, and it means you don't have to rely on your Hedonite heroes as much as you used to. The other cool thing is, in the olden days, if I could kill your Hedonite heroes, I would be able to stop you from spending your Depravity. Now the Fane of Slaanesh can summon on units as well as your heroes. So that's really cool. It means it's another reason to take your Fane of Slaanesh other than just sacrificing an artifact to get yourself a little boon. You are going to have this. You might find that you're now going to play with your Fane of Slaanesh a little bit more aggressively up the table to get those demons up earlier, or putting them, much further away in the backfield, so that should you find yourself late game without many heroes at all, you can still summon some units on the backfield and keep them outside of those 9 threat ranges. So I think either way, the way you use the Fane of Slaanesh has changed. That's a good thing. The other change, and probably the thing that caused most people to put their army on the shelf, was the Locus of Diversion. This was the basically make your opponent fight last. And when you had 2 Keepers of Secrets, you had the Contorted Epitome, you had the Lawnmower, you had all the different units making my army fight last. And obviously that dice roll would be different, but if it was a greater demon or if it was just a regular hero, that was such a really bad experience that I think it caused a lot of people to put the demons on the shelf and not play with them. And it meant that they got a lot of FAQ adjustments that just made it a bad time. The Locus of Diversion has had a big change, and the way that it now is at the end of the charge phase, each friendly Hedonite hero within 1 inch of an enemy can create the Locus of Diversion. If they do so, pick one enemy unit that is within 1 inch of the hero and roll a dice. Add 1 if it's a greater demon. On a 4+, that unit cannot make a pile-in move before it attacks in the following combat. You cannot pick this unit more than once, whether it was successful or not. Now, this becomes powerful when you think about positioning. If you think about most units in the game have a ranged weapon of 1 inch or 2 inch. If you stop a unit from piling in and you get your Keeper of Secrets, for example, or whatever you're attacking with, if you get them on the side of a unit and you minimize the amount of people who can attack back, it does mean that you aren't going to suffer nearly as many attacks back than you would have in the old rules. Yes, I would have fought last, but I still could pile in my 3 inches in the old rules. Now, you're going to stop me from piling in. And if you charge a hero, usually a lot of heroes have a 2-inch or a 3-inch attack. That's not going to worry them. But when you start going into battle line, you start going into elite units who, again, won't have a 3-inch attack, but more 1 or a 2, you're really going to reduce the amount of damage that your unit's going to take back. And Slaanesh doesn't have a lot of great armor saves, so this is a good win. It's going to mean your troops are going to be around for a lot longer. So again, I don't think this is a nerf. I think this is just an adjustment, and I think it's a good adjustment. You have seen a slight change with the Keeper of Secrets. The Keeper of Secrets command ability cannot buff itself. So it's now stating that you must pick another friendly Hedonites unit. Now, what I think you're going to see here is I think you're going to start seeing, in wrestling terms, a tag team. I think you're going to see 2 Keepers of Secrets tag teaming with each other and using their command abilities on each other. Basically, I can't use it on myself, but I can use it on another unit. And another Keeper of Secrets can be another unit. Unless that is changed in FAQ, I can see this being a seriously strong combination. And good news, Keepers of Secrets went down in points as well. So I can see them tag teaming quite well. Another change that happened is with Czarnecki. Czarnecki did have a change with the Deadly Symbiosis. And this was always a weird rule. In the past, you would choose one of the 2 attacks that you would fight with. You'd either fight with the person on top or the fight with the person on the bottom. And at the end of the combat phase, you would fight with the other. Instead, you just attack with all of it, and you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by melee weapons by friendly Hedonite units within 18 of the models. So I think that was a nice little cleanup. Glad they got rid of that weirdness. The Contorted Epitome had a couple of changes here. The Gift of Power no longer gives you a reroll to your Unbind and your Dispelling. It does still have the reroll to cast, but you just don't get the reroll to Unbind and Dispel. The other thing that you've gotten here is you used to have the ability to make your opponent fight last on a 4+. Instead, it's changed to be at the start of the combat phase, you can roll 1 dice for each unit within 3 inches of the model. On a 4+, basically, it's kind of like a fight last kind of thing. It's a bit of a change, but you roll 1 dice for each unit within 3 of the model. On a 4+, that model cannot be picked until that unit has attacked. So it's basically not a fight last, but it is a fight last. It's just a nicer way of doing a fight last. It makes me feel better than being told on a 4+, I fight last. The Infernal Rapturous has lost its free Depravity generation. So it used to generate, I think, 1 Depravity for free each turn while it's on the battlefield. That harmonic alignment is now gone. So no free CP or free Depravity DP, not CP, DP. No more DP from the Infernal Rapturous. And finally, there were a lot of points changes. And when I looked at this versus I looked at the Daughters of Cain, I think initially you could freak out and go, whoa, wait a second. I had all of these points adjustments and they've all gone up with my Slaanesh. Now, I think while that is true, you need to appreciate that in the old book, it was your heroes that generated Depravity. And because of that, it means your troops were cheaper because essentially they were there just for scoring objectives and to be generally annoying to your opponent. Now they are generating Depravity. So the usefulness of your troops, the usefulness of your seekers, the usefulness of your smaller heroes, they have all increased in their value, while the value of your keepers and Shalaxi, again, being primary DP generators in the past, aren't nearly as much as they used to. So your keepers and Shalaxi have gone down. Obviously, your fiends and your hellflayers, if you're reading the screen, have gone down as well. But you have seen some of the other units go up. And if there's something in here that you really, really want, and you like, I really like the blade bringer, but I just can't justify 250 points. You know, you've always got the ability to summon on so many of these units as well. So you may not necessarily want to pay for them in points, but you might want to generate them and bring them on the table. So we have seen some points adjustments. Again, it is likely based on the Depravity and less reliant on the hero, but it still means that, you know, your keepers still have a lot of value. Don't throw them in the bin. So where do I think Slaanesh ranks? So when I think about the meta and I think about what this book is bringing to the table. I think first off, it's returning back to the fat middle. It is probably in the higher bands of the fat middle. I think it's competing with, your Lumineth. It's competing with your Kharadron Overlords. It's competing with the stronger armies that aren't necessarily what you'd say are overpowered. If I asked anybody on the street, my local old man at the fruit shop, I'm like, what are the most overpowered units, armies in Age of Sigmar? Con the Fruiter would say to me, Anthony, I think it is those Seraphon and those Zench that are causing issues in the meta. I don't think Con the Fruiter would say anything at all bad about Slaanesh. I think they are strong. I think they are going to be useful on the table. I think there's going to be some interesting combinations when you start thinking about the rules that Sigvold, the Lord of Gluttony, brings to the table, your Blissbarb archers. You start looking at the way that Keepers of Secrets have gone down in points. They still have the tools to compete. I still think they can go 4-1. They are still going to be winning 3-2. They still have the potential to go 5-0. So they're not a bad army. I think the Locus of Diversion is going to reward people who play smart. No longer is it just, 3+, lol, you fight last. It is going to mean that you're going to have to think about positioning some of your heroes and some of your units a little bit better. But I think if you play the game well, you will be rewarded more than Locus of Diversion, and you won't have the negative play experience that makes you shelve your army again. I think when I reflect on my experience in the old Slaanesh, my biggest disappointment was always I didn't get to see a lot of the cool units. And I think when I look at the new build, it's going to promote new ways of building your army. By the way, you've still got your 3 ways to build. You've still got your invaders. You've still got, the different sub-allegiances of Slaanesh. And a lot of those haven't really changed. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Selesky's Host, which came out of, I think it was White Dwarf, which doubled Depravity. I don't know how they're going to, I think that's an FAQ that'll come. So do keep that in mind. But overall, I think I'm excited to see how this army builds. Again, anyone who knows my channel will know that we do list talking after the FAQ is dropped. So you can expect the FAQ to drop approximately 4 weeks after the Battletome hits the shelves. We will then start talking to some of the experienced players that are running this army who have had some time to practice and play with their games to learn how the CP generation's going, and is it worth taking, splitting your attacks? Do you go all in on the Depravity generating, or do you take advantage of Locus, or do you start building around some of the cool things that Sigvold brings to the table? So look, overall, there is an FAQ, and the FAQ will always come out and we will talk lists, but I'm curious to see what you have to say when it comes to picking up your Battletome for the first time, looking at some of the rules. I wouldn't see this as a nerf. I don't think this book lost any power level. I think it's just brought it back into the way that we play Age of Sigmar currently. And I like that it's going to be a powerful book again without the feel bad negative play experience that a lot of people are still very scarred about from the old Slaanesh. If you ask anyone, who your worst games were against, a lot of people are going to say Slaanesh. They've had scars for a while, and I think this is going to really change the game, and you haven't really lost that much competitiveness. So that's my take. Again, I don't know exactly. Let's get them on the table. Let's practice with some of the mortals as well as the Slaanesh. Is it going to be good to have pure demons, pure mortals, a mixture of both? Is Sigvold really going to be probably, one of the more powerful heroes, or is it going to be still the tag team with the Keepers of Secrets? Look, let's get it on the table. Let's actually have some games with it. But overall, I really like the book. And if I picked that book, I probably would be excited to play. I don't think there's much badness that's in there. So I hope you found this valuable. I hope you found that discussion valuable. If you did, give the video the old thumbs up. And if you have a comment or an insight, leave it in the comment section below. The champions over here are my AOS Coach Patreons and YouTube members. So you guys are bloody legends. Thank you for all the support. If you want to know more about the support programs, the links are below down here in the episode description, along with the link to the Discord server, so we can continue this conversation. Until next time, don't forget to name your characters and have a good one.